Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada on the southern tip of Vancouver Island, surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. I hope that everybody is having a great week so far, whether you're working, going to school, or both. I hope life is treating you well. Welcome, Fuang. Hi, James, Andrew, Chayani. Nice to see many members in the class. Alexi. Welcome, Sarah. Nice to see our chat moderator here with us at the very start. It's good to have you. Welcome, Alexandra, Black Panther, Nipa, Yukana. Nice to see everybody with me for this IELTS speaking class. Students speaking part 1 about reading books. The IELTS speaking section is a 12 to 15 minute interview. It has 3 parts. The examiner will give you instructions for each. Part 1 has 5 or 6 questions that discuss a general topic and some questions to get to know you a little bit better. There are some very specific marking criteria: fluency, coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range accuracy, pronunciation, and they're looking for natural, complex, compound language. So they're marking you on these, and you can get anywhere from a 0, meaning that you didn't show up, all the way to a band 9, meaning that you are an expert user of the English language and you're an expert communicator. This lesson today, this speaking, is brought to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are the websites that are the textbooks for these live classes. We use these websites regularly for our practice exams, interacting with students, audio materials. So check them out. This is aehelp.com here, our academic IELTS website or portal. You can click this big red button that's just right above my head there to get access to the premium IELTS package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, students, and you can use this code VIP9 to get an additional 10% discount that's coming from our most recent HD video release on YouTube with an IELTS speaking candidate from Punjab. So check that out. Students, we are an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner, IELTS Test Registration Center. I'm a certified British Council agent. I hold a degree in psychology. So we have the right skills for you to improve quickly and get better band scores. For general IELTS, check out gieltshelp.com. Again, it's this big red button, the Join Now button, that's just above my head there. We're going to use the academic website a little bit later today to talk with students, to practice speaking, and to give you some assessment and feedback. Students, if you haven't yet, get the apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help from your app store. Link them to the web account. And if you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. Sarah, thank you for putting the website URL into the chat there for everybody. All right, Alexi, all the way in the middle of June. Okay, lots of time to get ready for your IELTS exam. Amazon has our exam books. You can get those, AE Helps Academic IELTS or G Helps General IELTS. Just search for those on Amazon. And we've got our schedule. So from today until Saturday, we've got several live classes for you. Right now, we've got the speaking part 1. Tomorrow, we will have task 2 writing for members and then reading for subscribers. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button, get notifications of the live classes. And then Saturday, we'll have speaking part 2 and speaking part 3. Again, on YouTube, check out the latest video that we released. It's a good one. It's great for practice. It's great for improving your vocabulary, your grammatical range, accuracy, and the quality of your answers for speaking. This is a speaking video, again, with a candidate from the Punjab region in India. So check that out. I'll put the video link in the chat so you can check that out at some point in time. All right, everybody. Speaking part 1. So I just had a student write an email a couple of days ago and send us a testimonial. She passed her IELTS speaking with a band 7. She was very happy with it. She has been using the course materials and following these live classes. And she said that she showed up to her IELTS exam 1 hour before it started, her speaking. And she found other candidates to speak with and practice her English with, and that really helped her confidence going into the exam. So the proof is in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. That's an idiom. The proof is in the pudding. That idiom, can anybody tell me what that means by the way I'm using it? So what I'm telling you here is I'm teaching you an idiom and I'm teaching you a strategy. So again, just a reminder, it's a really good one, this strategy, girls and guys. It can easily be the difference of that 1 band score. So the strategy is show up 1 hour before the speaking interview and find other candidates to speak English with and practice questions. It's that simple. And as I'm telling you, we just had one of our students get a solid score and use this strategy. And she literally said, I used that strategy. It was really good. So the proof is in the pudding. Raquel says the result is in the end. Andrew says the statement should be judged based on actual experience. Yeah, exactly. So it's if we want to be really scientific, Andrew, we can say it's empirical evidence. Empirical evidence means it is proven through experience. Through real experience. The proof is in the pudding. Yes, absolutely. And when you're studying for the IELTS or when you're doing other important goals or working towards other important goals in life, that's really what you should be paying attention to. I know that, it's frustrating to go on YouTube or go online, look for IELTS strategies, and then just find so many different opinions and teachers talking about do this and do that and do that. Well, yeah, I mean, to each their own. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. So pay special attention to what has been proven to actually work consistently, not by one person because they got really lucky, but consistently, okay? And I guarantee you, all of you show up to that exam 1 hour early, use English, talk to other candidates, and you will all experience a better overall IELTS speaking result and interview. Okay, so you go to that exam, you register 1 hour before, 20 minutes before your interview. And then you get called into the examination room. Okay, so in order to get those higher band scores, right? Because we all want to get at least that band 7. 7 is the good English, right? So band 6, and you should know this, band 6 means you have fluent English, but with maybe quite a few mistakes, okay? But with numerous mistakes, we'll say that, okay? And that's lovely. I mean, hey, if I could speak fluently in a few more languages, that I would love that. I speak three, but one more, two more couldn't hurt. So band 6 is fluent English, and that isn't really enough these days for university or even for immigration. It's on the low end, especially if somebody is trying to get a fast entry visa, or what do they call them, rapid entry visa. So a band 7 means that you've got good English. And I think that should be the minimum benchmark for everybody, right? You want to sound good, okay? Band 7 good English means basically you are like a native English speaker with day-to-day conversation. You can hold up a day-to-day conversation like a native speaker with a few mistakes. Okay? So that's what 7 means, and that's really where you want to be at. So when you're going to study abroad or you're going to live abroad, you want to have that feeling of like, okay, I can hold up a conversation if someone were to stop me on the street and chat a little bit or talk a little bit. People don't do that so much anymore these days, but that's the idea, right? Band 8 means you have very good English. You can find the exact descriptions of what that means for lexical resource, grammatical range, accuracy, pronunciation. So if you go online, okay, and you search for IELTS speaking, official IELTS speaking marking criteria. PDF, okay? If you Google that, you'll find what this means according to IELTS in the sense of like lexical resource, like your vocabulary and so forth. But right now, what I'm trying to tell you is what it actually means in the real world. So if you go out on the street and you start speaking English, what does that actually mean, right? Okay. And Chayani says you need at least 6.5 to study abroad. Yeah, and 6.5 is somewhere between fluent and good, right? Which makes sense. You want to be at least that level and then rapidly improve. Okay, so band 8, what is very good English? Well, very good English means that you can express yourself clearly on most topics and find accurate words to clearly detail your speaking. Okay? So at band 8, you're not really making many mistakes, and you're not only not making many mistakes, but you're sounding quite quote unquote intelligent at this point. So it means that you can talk about politics, you can talk about chemistry, biology, the environment, nature, and in a fair bit of detail, and you can find the right words to really express yourself, right? So that's a band 8. A band 9 is an expert user of the English language. Or simply put, let's just say expert English user. So what the heck is a band 9? So if a band 8 is somebody who's very good, that's where somebody like a native speaker would say, wow, that person's very good with English. Doesn't matter if you're a native speaker or if you have a pronunciation accent. The person will say, wow, that girl, that guy is very good at speaking in English or communicating. And that's kind of the other part here, is very good English and very good communication. So what the heck is a band 9 then? If a band 8 is already with such high expectation, then what is a band 9? Okay. And this is really, I mean, there's no difference, or not too much difference here between writing and speaking. When we're thinking about writing, it's basically the same concept except in the field of literature, right? So, but we're looking at very much similar concepts. So, what's a band 9 then? How would you describe a band 9? So, what would you class as an expert user of English and communication? Sagar Basnet says, how can we use the accurate word? So Sagar, by identifying the topic of the question and then using your lexical resource to choose ideal words in the response. Okay. Arava says a band 9 expert should have even more practice. Chanisha says should be very fluent. Not quite. It's even more than that. Okay. Raquel says somebody with flexible communication. Jainil Suthar says like entrepreneurs. Jainil, you're on the right track by saying like entrepreneurs. Yes, in some sense, like a good entrepreneur, right? So it's not even so much about no mistakes, but can talk about any topic in English with not only great command of vocabulary and information, but also mastery of persuasion and emphasis, like a politician. Okay, so when you're thinking about a band 9, that's basically what you need to think about. Now, you don't have to be like a politician, but you have to be in the same realm, okay? So you have to make a lot of sense, to put it simply. You have to make a lot of sense. So you have to be in command of, for instance, emphasis, all right? Now, you're going like, well, that's impossible, right? Well, it's not really. It's understanding some basic concepts, right? So, if I had $100,000, I would buy a nice family home in the countryside with a white picket fence. Okay, so here is one sentence. Here is another sentence. Okay. When I have $100,000, I will buy a nice family home in the countryside with a white picket fence. Okay. Somebody at the band 9 level can very much purposefully, with intent, choose one over the other. So choose, for example, sentence B over sentence A in any given context, right? So this is mastery or control, for instance, over grammar, right? What's the difference between these two sentences? If I had $100,000, I would buy a nice family home in the countryside with a white picket fence. By the way, everybody, this is speaking, so make sure to speak and repeat, okay? What's the difference? Andrew says B shows confidence. So B is when I have $100,000, I will buy a nice family home in the countryside with a white picket fence. Icon says A is imagination. Raquel says B is confidence. Yeah, so A is an unreal condition. Okay, and B is a real condition. Okay, So let's say earlier on in the speaking interview, or at the beginning of the speaking interview during the introduction, the IELTS examiner says, do you work or study? And let's say that the candidate says, I have recently graduated from medical school, and I have just started my internship at a local hospital in my city. Okay, so here the examiner asks, again, repeat after me, do you work or study? And then the candidate says, I have recently graduated from medical school, and I have just started my internship at a local hospital in my city. All right, pop quiz. Which answer is better for this candidate later in the part 1 interview when the examiner says, if you had $100,000, what would you do? Okay, is it A or B? So which sentence is better? And why, of course? Thu Trang says A, Rakwea says B, Icon says A, Phuong says B, Padam says A, Bekruz says B, Chayani says B, Colin says B. Finally, it looks like B is starting to outnumber A. For all of those people who are choosing B, I'm on your side in this case. Why? So why do I think that B is better than A? Okay, Andrew says B because working at a hospital implies good career, or better put, Andrew, implies a good salary, right? Okay, so for this candidate, B is better because as a practicing doctor, it is very much realistic for this person to quickly earn $100,000 and buy this home. Okay, so does that make sense? Okay, if I'm a high school student, I don't really know what I'm going to do yet, then maybe A would be the better choice, okay? Because it's a little bit on the unrealistic side at this point in time. But with a person who's graduated and they're now practicing as a doctor, it's most likely that they're going to have that $100,000 within a couple of years to buy that home, right? So in this case, B is better. So this is what it means to have absolute command of language, and you can master this, okay? So students, you can master command over language, and you should always work towards this, even if you've passed IELTS, even if you got that band 6 or 7 or 7.5 in IELTS, you should always pay attention to this. So always, and this is just a personal tip, always focus on your communication, improve your vocabulary, and understand the purpose of grammar so that you can master emphasis and convince your audience. Okay? All right? So that's how you do it. And again, students, on the website here, when you log into your My Student account, in the full interactive course, when you go through all of the different parts of key strategies, then you can learn a lot of these very important concepts to to master this, okay? So a good one here is, for instance, that I just brought up in this lesson, is to think about your audience like an alien. So this is your examiner here, okay? Ooh, your examiner comes in peace, okay? So that's your examiner right there. They're an alien, okay? So when you talk to the examiner, you have to remember that they do not know what you know. Just because you know some fancy software like how to use Photoshop, they might have no idea, believe it or not, they might have no idea what Photoshop is. Okay, so you're going to have to explain that this is a piece of software that's used for graphic design, for creating pictures, images, and I use this in my job every day. So you have to think of your examiner like an alien, okay? You should avoid phrases like, you know. Well, maybe they don't know, right? So be very careful, okay? Also, they have different perspectives. So saying you know, they might say, I don't know, I think the opposite, right? Okay? And they're smart. They're going to analyze the information that you give. So when you're giving explanations and when you're giving examples, they don't have to be the truth, okay? But they have to be believable, okay? So you can't say something like, I spent 1 million hours volunteering for this organization, because it's like, what do you mean 1 million hours? A lot of time, but okay, so this is your examiner. They're a friendly alien that comes in peace. Okay, and again, you can check out all of the other strategies in the course, all right? So again, some of the most important strategies for speaking and throughout IELTS are critical thinking, asking what, why, how in your head all the time, paraphrasing, where A equals B, so use the questions and then use your own words, and visualization. If you can see what you're talking about, then the examiner can see what you're talking about. So if you're talking about a tree, you might want to describe that it's a lush apple tree with lots of foliage out in your garden, which you prune in the fall so that there's a lot of fruit later on or in the winter, okay? All right, so you have to see what you're talking about. All right, so check out the course when you get a second. Again, that's at ahelp.com, glshelp.com, and we're going to use the speaking chat interface here in just a bit, okay? All right, so students, hopping back to our questions, let's get into it. Let's get rolling, okay? I'm going to skip the may I see your identification and what's your full name today. So I'm going to just jump right into the familiarization questions, okay? So let's get into this one. Do you work or study? Very popular question for IELTS examiners. You should have a nice full sentence ready if you are to get this question. So give me a nice full sentence here. Do you work or study? Senthil says, I am a homemaker. Okay. Give a bit of detail about that, Senthil. Like, I am a homemaker. I have 2 children, ages 9 and 12. We live in a 3-bedroom house, and I make sure to have warm cooked meals ready for my family every day, keep a tidy home, and I take my kids to all of their extracurricular activities like cricket and piano. Okay, so that would be the homemaker version. All right. Viraj says, I work in a well-known pharmaceutical company named Piramal Pharma as a pharmacist. I have been there for the past 5 years. So Viraj, a little bit more detail, please. Raquea says, currently I am studying. I have completed my graduation in 2021. Now I'm preparing for my master's. Raquea, simplify. Currently, I'm studying. I graduated in 2021 with a bachelor's in biochemistry. Now I'm preparing for my master's abroad. Okay? You have to show strong, clear English from the very beginning. Millicent Ado says, I am a nurse at Corlebu Teaching Hospital and currently pursuing my master's in public health at Legon University. Okay, not professional nurse, Millicent. It's a registered nurse or simply a nurse. Okay, or you can say an ICU nurse, like intensive care unit nurse, pediatric nurse. Professional nurse doesn't make sense because nurses are professional. That's understood. Okay. All right, Andrew says, I'm currently in my last year of university studying computer engineering. When I graduate in June this year, I'm planning to apply for my first job as a software developer intern for a reputable company, hopefully Google or Apple. Sure. Mariam Zahid says, I have recently graduated from nursing college and have just started my job at a government hospital in my area. Have just started my job at a famous government hospital here in my area, Mariam. Okay, so know your order of adjectives. Priyanka says, currently I have a bachelor's degree in environmental science and I am enrolled in a 2-month IELTS course. I wish to study abroad afterwards in the US or Canada for my master's. Good. Okay, again, just a little bit more about controlling emphasis. So students, I'm looking at the chat, of course, as you can tell, and I'm giving you real-time feedback on your answers and real-time corrections. Pay attention to each other, watch the chat, watch the class, watch my corrections. Notice how I simplify what you're saying, make it more accurate, and elaborate in real time, okay? So here we go. Do you work or study? I am both employed as a nurse at a local hospital. I work in the ICU 4 days a week. And I'm also studying daily for this IELTS exam in hopes of getting a band 7.5 so that I can apply for a work visa in Canada and continue my nursing career in Toronto. Okay. All right. So here is an example answer. All right. Notice the use of the correlative conjunction here, both and. Okay. This is an example of emphasis. All right. So use correlative conjunctions to create greater emphasis for your ideas. Okay, so correlative conjunctions are conjunctions like both and, either or, neither, nor, whether, or, not only, but also. Okay. So these create more emphasis. Those are correlative conjunctions. So again, this is speaking, students. Make sure to speak and repeat. So copy me. Don't just listen. Work with me. I'm working hard for you. Work hard for the IELTS. Work with me. Speak and repeat. All right. Here we go. By the way, for everybody who's new to the channel, I am Canadian. I speak with a West Coast type of English. pronunciation, diction. So Hollywood movies, many of them are this style of English. Of course, you probably recognize that. You're like, oh, he kind of sounds like a movie character. So people in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, in the state of Washington, Oregon, so Portland, Seattle, and then going north, Vancouver, Victoria, where I'm at. We all kind of have this very clear, crisp form of English with slight variations, but quite similar style of vocabulary and such. Okay. All right. Here we go. Speak and repeat. Do you work or study? I am both employed as a nurse at a local hospital. I work in the ICU 4 days a week, and I'm also studying daily for this IELTS exam in hopes of getting a band 7.5 so that I can apply for a work visa in Canada and continue my nursing career in Toronto. Okay. And what will you do after this exam? Give me a nice full sentence for this one. I'll write one myself and then you write one. Well, immediately after this test, I will grab lunch because I'm starting to get quite hungry. And in the long term, as I had just said, I plan to work abroad so that I can get better pay and improve, and not only improve my quality of living, but also help out my family financially. Okay, so there's my answer. Take a look at it and write your own. Students, I am waiting for you to write your own answer. I'm going to be checking the chat for this. So what will you do after this exam? Well, immediately after this test, I will grab lunch because I'm starting to get quite hungry. But in the long term, as I just said, I plan to go abroad so that I can get better pay and not only improve my quality of living, but also help out my family financially. So here's that not only, but also. Okay, Mamita says, well, I'm working as a radio technologist since 2019 in the renowned government hospital. Radio technologist. Mamita, do you mean radiologist? Like, do you work the x-ray machine? Moreover, I'm head of my department, which makes me responsible for other staff in the department. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a radio technologist that I'm unaware of, that position. Padam says, probably I will be seeking a scholarship in a Canadian university if I meet the criteria. Padam, watch your verb tense, not met the criteria. Domenico says, after the exam, I plan to take a short break to relax and recharge before diving back into my regular routine. I might catch up on some much needed sleep, spend a bit of time with family and friends. Very nice, Domenico. Nice answer. Nice natural answer. Okay. Don't give too much, Domenico, okay? Stay on topic. Let the examiner ask questions. Yanni says, after the exam, I will spend my time hanging out with my friends, and I will keep my fingers crossed in hopes of getting a good score, okay? Chayani, focus on that correct natural language, okay? Fong says, well, now after this exam, I will grab a sandwich and a bottle of water to recharge my batteries as I'm a bit hungry right now. And in the long term, I will continue my studies in Bachelor of Science. Okay, Fong, a little bit more natural, all right? In a Bachelor of Business, okay? Sure. Ryan says, after the exam, I will go home as soon as possible, and in the long term, I will apply for a British university to do my master's in international business management. Nice, Ryan. Okay. All right. Good work, students. Good work. Let's talk about books. So, IELTS, right? General topics, often in part 1, they'll introduce it. Here, let's talk about books. As soon as you hear the topic of books, what are some words that come to mind? One way to expand your vocabulary is to play memory or word association games. Expand your vocabulary by playing word association games. I say book, you say this, I say that. So I say book, you say what? Okay, that's how we do it. So that's a word association game. If you're doing it in partners, we can do it like this, like I say book, you say avid reader. Okay, Umer, avid reader. All right. I say avid reader. You say bookworm. Very good. Zafar. I say bookworm. You say going to sleep. Hopefully not. Imagination. Okay. I say imagination. You say, now stay on the topic of books. Let's see if somebody comes up with it. So, Gaming Hub says bibliophile. Tien says sleepy. I don't know if I'd say sleepy. Stay on topic. You have to keep with the concept of books, okay? The topic is books. So I say imagination. You say, very good, Bogdan, fiction novels. Okay, good. I say fiction novels. You say a fairy tale. Very good. Nice. Okay, now you get it, right? So this is a word association game. Doing this in English and then recording it, talking about it. Lots of fun. It's a good way to improve your lexical resource for specific topics. Okay? All right. Fantastic. So let's get into some questions. Here we go, students. So the IELTS examiner says, let's talk about books. Okay. First question, how often do you read a book? Okay. Give me a nice full sentence answer to this question. How often do you read a book? Okay. How often do you read a book? Domenico says, I try to read at least a few pages every day, so I read a book on a regular basis. However, the amount of time I spend reading can vary depending on my schedule and other activities. So Domenico, what is it? Like 1 hour a day on average, 30 minutes a day? Quantification, students. Payal says, I am not fond of reading. Payal doesn't answer my question. How often do you read a book? Rarely, never. Okay, I'm not fond of reading is a different answer or a different question, Payal. That's the question of, do you like reading? And then you can say, I'm not fond of reading. Like, for example, Payal, I could do this. I am not fond of reading. However, since I am a sociology student, I have to read for at least 3 hours each day, and I read at least 2 books a week, right? So just because I'm not fond of reading doesn't mean that I don't read a lot of books, especially if I'm a student, okay? Be very careful, students. This is what I mean about Band 8, Band 9. You can't get a Band 8 and you can't get a Band 9 if your answers are not accurate, okay? All right. Kushi Darak says, well, in my childhood, I was a bookworm, but as I grew old, I didn't get time from other activities. But still, whenever I get time on weekends, I try to do some reading of new books. So Kushi, how often do you read a book? Every weekend? Again, be accurate, students. Makran says, personally, I rarely find myself reading a book. However, I read books while I'm traveling on the train to college for at least an hour, 3 to 4 times a week. Okay. Jocelyn says, I'm a midwife by profession, and I currently am an employee of Coeur-les-Beaux Teaching Hospital. I've worked there for 3 years. I'm at the gynecological department, to be precise. Jocelyn, that must be answering a previous question. Dewey says, I'm a real book nerd, and as one of my daily habits, I make sure to read at least 1 hour per day before going to bed. I'm currently on a biography called Educated, written by an American writer, Tara Westover. Very nice, Dewey. Okay, good answer. Dewey, the more natural, instead of book nerd is okay. Bookworm is the very common expression, okay? So how often do you read a book? I frequently enthrall myself in books. I read at least 1 book a month. I go through a few chapters in the evening before going to bed. Sure. Okay. All right. I frequently enthrall myself in books. I read at least 1 book a month. I go through a few chapters in the evening before going to bed. I just read the book, The Wealthy Barber. All right. Good. Nice smooth example at the end. Why not, right? Okay, makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's jump questions here, and we'll tackle this question before we do some practice. If you could write a book, what would it be about? Answer this question, everybody. If you could write a book, what would it be about? Enthrall means to immerse yourself, to really surround yourself with that knowledge or with that environment. Okay? Yes, very good. I'm happy a couple of you caught that more unique vocabulary. Okay? So if you could write a book, what would it be about? Give me a nice full sentence. Sayeda says humanity. You can't do 1-word answers if you want to get a good score on the IELTS exam. You have to use the question. So again, hint everybody, use the question in your answer. All right. Kushal, your answer is off topic here. You're not answering for me what you would write your book about. Okay? All right. Payal says, if I get this opportunity to write a book, then I would definitely like to write on geographical science or information. Payal, why? Why would you write about geography? Okay. Kushi says, if I get a chance to write a book, it would be on self-love and body positivity, because teenagers nowadays get bullied for their physical shape. So my notice would be to bring some confidence for those. So my mission would be to bring confidence to maturing teenagers. Kushi, the start is good. The second half is a bit confusing. Okay, you need to rethink it. All right. Miriam Zahid says, interesting question. If I could get the chance of writing a book, it would be about the struggles of my parents, like how they sent me abroad to pursue their careers, how they send me abroad to pursue my careers. Miriam, I'm not sure how that's the struggle of your parents, so you need to be a little bit clearer there. Okay, again, remember, the examiner's an alien. They don't know what you know. You have to give them clear answers. Don't overthink it. Okay. Umer Gaming says, if I have a chance to write a book, I will write about techniques and tips for baking, because I'm a good baker and I recently learned a lot of material about this. Okay, Umer, good. So you'd write a cookbook, right? So maybe some recipes and some instructions on how to bake. Good. Instructional books, sure. When I have some time in the future to author a novel, I will most certainly write on the topic of effective communication, because I believe that mastering interpersonal discourse is the key to a happy and successful life. All right. There's my answer, students. And again, I'm always showing you band 9 answers, right? So answers at the highest level. When I have some time in the future to author a novel, I will most certainly write on the topic of effective communication, because I believe that mastering interpersonal discourse is the key to a happy and successful life. All right. Question, everybody. Do I plan to write a book in the future or not? So, based on my answer, what do you think? Do I plan to write this book in the future or not? Smith, you should avoid funny answers. So you should not try to be comical. Okay. Rahim John says yes. Absolutely, Rahim John. Makran says yes. Fuang says yes. Yes, because I'm using the real condition, right? So I have this prediction that in the future I'm going to have some time to write a book. And so I'm using the real condition. And perhaps I will, students, perhaps I will write this book about effective communication. And yes, it's connected to my teaching. That's right, Kool-Aid. Yeah. So it seems like, yes, remember what I said at the beginning of the class about using grammar with purpose? And so at the very beginning here, I gave you these answers, right? If I had $100,000, I would buy a nice family home, versus when I have $100,000, right? Okay, remember that? Okay. All right, everybody. Well, it's time for you to volunteer, to practice speaking with me. Sarah, I see that you're here with us. If you could just plop the instructions into the chat, that would be great. For all of you who are a little bit newer to the channel, to the live classes, guess what? Magic is about to happen. You will have a chance to speak with me. So you can volunteer for speaking. Go to aehelp.com, the website, because YouTube does not have this functionality yet. and we like using our website. Okay. So go to aehelp.com, log into your My Student account or create one, and then click on Student Partner Speaking. Okay. So aehelp.com, again, to join the premium version of the course, just click that big red button there right above my head. It's a one-time payment, doesn't cost a lot. We actually give way more than a lot of other IELTS sites that charge way more. So I was checking some out the other day and they're like $100 and $200 and they don't even have half the materials that we have. I don't know why they're charging so much, but anyway, so go to your My Student account. In your My Student account, you will have computer-based practice, tests, lesson videos, audio CDs, lots more, and you are looking for this function here, the Student Partner Speaking. Okay, click on that, and you will enter the Student Partner Speaking chat interface here. Okay, it works on your phone as well. It's a fully responsive website. You see lots of students in here, including our premium students and many of our regular students. I'm going to put on my headphones. Make sure that your system works. Practice, try it out with somebody else. You might need a VPN. You need a good internet connection. I recommend using a computer instead of a phone if possible. Okay. And then you can just jump right in and send me a message and connect with me. Let's start off with, let's see if Ryan is with us here. I'm not sure if we've spoken much with Ryan. Ryan's a premium member, a premium student. Are you ready, Ryan? Okay, you'll find me in here as master, everybody. So you'll see that I'm in here as master. So send me a message by clicking on the blue envelope that's beside my handle and then say I want to volunteer. Okay, Ryan, if you're there, let me know. Let's give this a shot. Yes, you are. Ooh, that's loud. Okay. Ryan, it sounds like you picked up, but
Hello.
I don't. Oh, there you are, Ryan.
Hello.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, sir. Hello, Adrian.
How are you? Can you hear
I'm
me?
doing fantastic. What
Oh,
about you?
I am
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I am
Okay.
doing.
Good, good. I'm doing well also, Ryan. Ryan, can you tell all of our viewers where you are in the world right now?
Sir, I am from Kolkata, India.
Kolkata, India. And Ryan, why are you taking IELTS?
Sir, I want to pursue my master's in international business management from the United Kingdom.
Okay, yes, I remember you said that in the chat a little bit earlier today, right? What
Yes.
interests you in business? What would you like to do with that business degree later on?
So probably I want to have some business too, because as my father also have some business in Saudi Arabia, so I probably want to work with him.
Okay, so you can say, I'm following in my father's footsteps. Try that.
I want to follow my father's footstep in business.
Okay, I'm going to do this one more time. It's a very specific idiom, so it has to be verbatim. I'm following in my father's footsteps.
I am following in my father's footstep.
Footsteps. It's got to be plural.
Footsteps.
Yeah, I'll put it up here on the screen for everybody to remember. I'm following in my father's footsteps. It's good for you. Business is fun. I'm a businessman, aside from a teacher, so it's good fun. All right, Ryan. Well, let's get into it. Are you ready for some speaking part 1 questions?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
Okay, then let's do this. So welcome to the speaking section of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I will be your examiner for this part of the test. For part 1, I will ask you a couple of questions to get to know you better and some questions on a general topic. Do you work or study?
So I have completed my graduation in the year 2020 in BTech in Mechanical Engineering. Nowadays, I am preparing for IELTS to pursue my master's in the United Kingdom.
What will you do after this exam?
Uh, as soon as I will finish the exam, I will go to home, and in the long term, I want to pursue my masters in international business management from United Kingdom.
Let's talk about books. How often do you read a book?
Nowadays, as I am preparing for IELTS, I am reading books on daily basis for twice a day. I also read comics books when I get bored.
When is the last time you read a book?
The last time I read a book was yesterday, and the book name was Atomic Habits, which talk about the how to break a habit, and it was written by James Clear.
All right, I will stop there for a second, Ryan. Nice fluency, nice confidence. I commend you for that. That's great. Your level at this point is about a band 7, a solid 7, arguably even a 7.5. You speak clearly, but you make some awkward grammatical and language use mistakes that leads to dropping your score to that 7.75. And you have to work on cleaning those up. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So I asked you, do you work or study? And you said, I have completed my graduation in the year 2020. I understand it, but it's a bit strange. I think Rakwea wrote something similar in the chat as well. And I think that maybe you're translating here into English, and that's why it ends up sounding a little bit strange. Ryan, I have completed my graduation in the year 2020. What do you think is weird about that to my ear? Something's a little bit weird
Probably,
there.
sir. Sir, I don't know.
Fair enough. It's a good answer. This phrase, completed my graduation, is weird because the definition of graduation means to complete school. Okay? So you can say it two ways, but you can't combine it like this. So you can say, I have completed my bachelor's degree, or I have completed my high school studies in the year 2020. You can say that, or you can say, I have graduated in the year 2020. But if you say, I have completed my graduation, that sounds weird because what you're actually telling me is that you completed like your graduation ceremony. You're not actually talking about your school. Do you get what I mean by that?
Yes, yes, sir, I got it.
So it's understandable, but it's just awkward. And that would be the difference between, say, good English and expert English. Somebody who's very good or an expert knows that you wouldn't combine completed and graduation in the same sentence like this, okay? All right.
Yes.
So really pay attention to those pieces, okay? So graduated means complete school. It includes those two words, okay? All right. And so we have that a couple more times in later answers as well. So what will you do after this exam? And then you said, as soon as I will finish this exam, I will go to home. Just a little mistake, but those little mistakes, if there's many of them, they cost you. I will go home. It's not I will go to home. It's I will go home. Okay. So just little tiny pieces. The way to correct these, Ryan, because you're probably thinking, well, that's great, Adrian, but like, how should I actually do this? Like, how do I learn it, right? The right way to do it is to practice with other people. So what you really need to do is, Ryan, you said you're in India right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ryan, what's your native language?
Sir, my native language is Hindi.
It's Hindi. Okay, so the best advice that I can give you is practice your English with people who do not speak Hindi as their second language or as their primary language. So and ideally outside of India. So, for example, practice with somebody from Uzbekistan or practice from somebody from Vietnam. Okay. And there's a reason that I'm saying that. So on the website, like this, what we're using right now, you can do that. So you could talk to Dewey, for example, or you could talk to Jesser Beck, for example. Okay, so somebody from another country, because that way you can catch each other's mistakes that are non-English. So like Dewey, for example, he's from Vietnam. He might very quickly be able to pick that out and say, hey, wait a second, Ryan, you can't do that in English. I think you're translating from Hindi, right? So you can recognize it if it's some. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, because if you practice with somebody from India, they probably make many of the same mistakes that you do, and they won't realize that that's not the right English or it's a little bit different. Okay. So try to focus on that. So focus on finding somebody from a different country to practice with. Okay. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for being my first volunteer this week. Keep up the good
Thank you, sir.
work.
Thank you
Okay.
for that one.
You're very welcome. Bye for now, Ryan. All right. So that's really important advice, everybody. Okay. So to quickly identify mistakes that you might be making because of translating from your own language into English, one way to get around that is to practice with somebody from another country because they'll be translating differently. So you'll realize those discrepancies, meaning those differences. Okay. Thumbs up, Ryan. You're getting a lot of good thumbs up there in the chat as well. So well done. By the way, Ryan, 7.5. It's not bad at all. All right. Okay. Let's take somebody else. Fuang, we haven't heard your voice in some time, and you have just such a lovely voice. Let's see if we can get Fuang on the line here. Fuang, are you ready? Okay. We've got a good chunk of time still, students, so hang in there. I'll take a few volunteers today for sure. Hi, Fuang. Still quiet. I can't hear you, Fuang. Check that connection or check that audio setup. Make sure you've got everything hooked up right. Not sure what's going on. We usually have a good connection, Fuang. Maybe no, we've had a couple of times where the internet was a bit shoddy or spotty. Fuang, check it out. Come back, okay? All right, let's jump to another one of our premium students here. Let's see if Eugene is available for a quick chat. Eugene, are you ready? And for everybody who's trying to figure out how are we doing this, how is everybody volunteering, Sarah has put the instructions into the chat there.
Hello, Adrian.
Hi, Eugene. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm doing good. Eugene, can you remind everybody where you are from?
From Ghana in West Africa.
In Ghana. All right. West
Ghana,
Africa.
West Africa.
That's right. Okay, Eugene, are you ready for a few questions?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, here we go, Eugene. So let's talk about books. How often do you read a book?
Well, I'm not a fan of books. I'm not. Please, the question again.
How often do you read a book?
Well, I'm not fond of reading. However, due to the nature of my job, I always read health articles at least 2 hours for 3 times in a week.
When is the last time you read a book?
Well, recently I read a novel about a good doctor last week, and it illustrates how doctors commit certain unethical mistakes when it comes to taking care of their patients.
What is your favorite book and why?
Well, I always love to read health articles because I'm a professional nurse and I always want to um, educate myself in my field. So I normally concentrate on scientific aspects of books.
Okay. That was good. Okay, that was your start was a bit shaky. It was like a band 6, but then when you started again, I think that you were easily in the 7.5 to 8 range. So that was good. That was good. Okay. Yeah, at first it was a bit off your grammar and the answer. So I said, how often do you read a book? And you said, well, I am not. And then you said, please, the question again. It's okay to do that. If you feel nervous, if you feel like you've gone off track, you're not making sense, you're giving a confusing response, you can restart. So you can say, pardon me, I'm a bit nervous. Can you ask that question again? It's okay to do that after. Absolutely, Eugene. And then you said, well, I'm not fond of reading. Nice natural English, not fond of reading. Okay. However, due to the nature of my job, I always read at least 2 or 3 times a week. Nice use of some quantitative language, 2 or 3 times a week. That was good. Okay, make sure you tell me about your job so that we have clarity. Okay. You said the nature of my job. Now, if I don't know your job, Eugene, then that's confusing. So you have to say, due to the nature of my job, working as a nurse, I have to keep up with the latest practices and medical knowledge. So I always read at least 2 or 3 times a week, right? So you want to include that piece of information. So Eugene, try this again. Well, I'm not fond of reading. However, due to the nature of my job working as a nurse, I have to keep up with the latest practices and medical knowledge. So I read at least 2 to 3 times a week. How often do you read?
Well, I'm not fond of reading. However, due to the nature of my job, working as a nurse, I have to wake up with um, with the least practice and medical knowledge. So I always read at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, keep up. The phrasal verb is keep up with the latest.
Keep up with.
Okay. Keep
All
up with. All right.
Okay.
So it means to follow. All right. Good. Then I asked you, when is the last time you read a book? Okay. And you said you read a book just recently about how doctors commit unethical mistakes. I really liked that language, by the way. I wanted to emphasize that. So that was some really nice lexical resource, Eugene. Commit mistakes. It's definitely a higher level of English or knowledge of English to know that the verb commit is used with the word mistakes. A person commits a mistake, not just does a mistake, but commits a mistake. And you did a really good job identifying this or these words and how they're put together. So that was very nice. Okay. So that was a very positive. Okay. And then you said the last time I read a book was yesterday and the book name was, maybe that was not you. That was the previous student. Okay. Anyhow, overall, Eugene, that was quite good. Vocabulary was quite good. Make sure that you're giving very clear information. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Okay. Eugene, any questions about the speaking section?
Yes. With the speaking section, I sometimes have difficulties in the third part. That's part 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that is what I've noticed about my performance.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the part 3, sometimes the questions are quite long, and
Mm-hmm.
I normally don't get the whole question. So and moreover, I can't ask more than once. So I have to try to answer it the way I heard it.
Okay, so here's just a little bit of advice. Well, first of all, we'll do part 3 speaking later in the week on Saturday, so definitely come back for that class. So with part 3, really keep in mind part 2. That's my first tip for you. So every question in part 3 in some way is connected to part 2. As long as you keep that in mind, that, okay, this is somehow related to part 2, so I have to stay on the same topic and use that to answer, you can generate better answers, okay? The other tip is to slow down the communication. So part 3 is looking for much more specific information. So don't rush. Really try to slow the conversation and give good information, okay? So keep those points in mind. And of course, because you have fairly good English, so I can tell, you use a lot of English in day-to-day life, and I know that English is quite common in West Africa. So what you should be doing when you're studying, Eugene, is focusing most of your attention on part 2 and part 3 questions. Not worry too much about studying for part 1, okay?
Okay.
All right. Eugene, keep up the good practice. All right. We'll talk again soon.
All right.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, that was Eugene. Let's give Eugene a thumbs up. That was awesome. All right, let's try somebody else. Who have we not spoken to in a while? Jesser Beck, maybe? Jesser Beck wants to volunteer. Jesser Beck, are you ready? Let's reach out to Jesser Beck. Thank you for all the thumbs up, students. It's good to support each other in this fight to master English. All right. Jesser Beck, if you're there still, give me a life sign. Let us know that you haven't left for a sandwich or a cup of warm tea, although that does sound good. And then we'll jump right into it. Jesser Beck, you are there. Fantastic. Nice, students. You're all very studious. It's rare that I find somebody missing in action, MIA. All right. Jesser Beck, pick up the phone. All right, Jesser Beck, I'm not sure what's going on there. Got to pick up the phone. All right, let's see if we can reach out to Makrand. There you are. Makrand, are you ready? All right. The internet, it's still a place of mystery at times, how it works and why it works and sometimes why it doesn't. All right, Makrand.
Hello.
Hi, Makrand.
Yeah, am I audible?
You are very much so audible, Makrand. How are you today?
I am doing great. I was just watching the stream. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Makrand, do you have a day for your IELTS yet? Have you decided when you're going to take the test?
Probably the 25th of February or the 3rd of March.
Okay.
I have 2 dates in front.
Ooh, coming.
I'm gonna book. I'm gonna book it in few hours only. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my advice there is if you can wait to do it in March, then do it in March because, the more you can study for it, the better, right? So if it's not a rush. But if you have to do an application like for a visa or for university, definitely give yourself enough time that you can do the test again if needed, right? So you should consider that. All right, Makrand, hopefully you don't need to. Hopefully you just get amazing score the first time. Makrand, are you ready for some questions about books? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We can do this.
Okay. All right, here we go. Let's talk about books. What is your favorite book and why?
My favorite book would be Rich Dad Poor Dad because I personally believe that book has taught me a lot in terms of understanding how money is valued between the rich and the poor people. And the examples which I've mentioned in the book are really helpful in day-to-day life.
Where is a good place to buy books and why?
A good place to buy a book would be from a bookstore which is nearby to my place. But I personally buy book from street vendors. Like for example, uh, I live in Mumbai, so we have a church gate. So there are many street vendors who sell books, which are offered in discounted rates, as well as uh, the books. The variety of books there are pretty good.
If you could write a book, what would it be about?
Uh, when I have some time in future and given a chance to write a book, I would write a book about all the poems which I have written in my past and make an archive of the same. And I would definitely like to publish them in future.
Has the way you read books changed in the past 10 years?
In the past decades, definitely the way I'm reading books now has changed a lot. Earlier, we used to read it traditionally from textbooks, but nowadays, reading a book is also available online on digital platforms, such as the Amazon Kindle itself. We can read books there. So, yes, definitely reading books has changed a lot in the past decade.
That is the end of part 1. That concludes the speaking section of the exam. You will have your mark in a couple of days online after you finish the other sections, and sorry, we still have to do part 2 and part 3, but we're not doing any of that today anyway, Makran. I'm just kind of yakking here. All right, we're focusing on part 1.
Yeah.
Makran, that's really good. Were you practicing these questions before the class, or was this spontaneous?
No, I mean, like, I was there in the stream whole time, but like, I am practicing speaking on Discord as well with strangers, like general conversations. So that way, I believe it must have
Good
improved.
for you. Good for you, Makran. Not only is your English outstanding, but your communication is outstanding, and that's really what it takes for those impressive high band scores. You would easily be in the band 8 to 9 range here. So depending on your examiner, depending on whether or not they had a good cup of coffee that morning, you would get it does get a bit subjective at those levels, but you would get a band 8, 8.5, even a 9 for those answers. Okay?
That is the goal. That is the goal.
Yeah. No, I could see it. I could see an examiner giving you a band 9 for that. You answered all the questions exactly. Okay. So notice this first question: what is your favorite book and why? You immediately tackled the question. You said, my favorite book would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Would be gives me the idea that you probably have a few books that you really like, but you would probably choose this one. So it's nice use of English there. So my favorite book would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I personally feel that book has taught me a lot about finances and what separates people who are good with money versus who are bad with money. So you gave me a very nice explanation there why you like that book. Very accurate grammatically, good fluency. Overall, a very nice answer. And not to pick on Eugene, but Eugene, if you're still there, and I meant to point this out. When I asked Eugene the question, what is your favorite book? Eugene said, I normally concentrate on scientific books. Students, when you're asked about favorites, like what is your favorite piece of clothing? What is your favorite food? It's very important that you pick one and talk about it, okay? So you have to do it like Makran just did with my favorite book would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a very specific book, okay? And the reason, that's the right way to do it. Then I asked you, where's a good place to buy books and why? And you said, a good place to buy a book would be a bookstore which is near my home. And then you suddenly jumped and you said, but I usually personally buy books from street vendors. And I was kind of like, okay, well, why did you tell me about the bookstore near your home if you're now talking about the street vendors? It kind of doesn't make sense. But then you did a good job explaining why you like the street vendors because of the discounted prices and the variety of books. So I really focus on making sense. Okay, making sense. So if you start with a good place to buy a book would be a bookstore near my home, then just continue with that one because they have a
Okay.
great variety of books at really good prices, and I can read about the author and about the contents with the physical book in my hand, right? So don't really jump.
it.
So don't really jump around, but it was still good because you did a good job explaining the street vendors. Has the way you read books changed in the last 10 years? Really nice use of present perfect reflection. So you said definitely it has changed a lot. Now, you said you did use a lot of we and us, like we can read online. Just keep it with the I. So I have been reading a lot more books online in the last few years than a decade ago, right? So
Okay.
don't shift the perspective in part one from yourself to the general public. Keep it personal, okay? Because it's have the way you read books, not people read books, okay? And then if you could write a book, what would it be about? You're a poet. You would write a book with poems. Okay, when I have a chance, I will write a book about the poems I've written. Good, that made sense. That was effective. So overall, very, very, very good. Just keep paying attention to content and controlling the subject of your response. So if it's you, then talk about you. If it's people, talk about people. Just keep practicing. Your English is fine. Focus most of your attention on the communication elements, okay?
Okay.
All right. Makrand, any questions about IELTS speaking?
As such questions I do not have, but then like in part one, I do not face any difficulties in part one, but later on in part two, due to this the pace I have while speaking, I believe I fall short of content. So right now, like I'm just trying to cut down on this pace.
Okay, good. That's an interesting one. So part two, you have 1 to 2 minutes to speak, right? Now, speed is one element of information. So how fast we speak, of course, impacts the amount of information that we give. That's one way to look at it, right? Is to improve or increase your fluency so that you can say more, use more words within that 1 to 2 minutes. However, Makrand, and this is a very important however for everybody, what you say is just as important. So I could say, for example, yesterday I ate a very delicious pepperoni and Hawaiian thin crust pizza with mozzarella cheese stuffing in the crust. Okay, so it's one sentence, but it's got so much content, right?
Yeah.
And I can say that slowly. Or I could say something like, yesterday I ate cheese pizza, and it was a delicious pizza, and it was a pizza that had a lot of different kinds of cheeses on it. And it was a pizza that came from a store near my home. So I'm saying lots, and maybe I'm speaking quickly, but I'm actually not giving as much information just because of the way that I form my sentence, right?
Yeah.
So in part two, Makrand, don't necessarily worry too much about speed because I think your speed is okay, but focus more on your ability to include lots of concise information, okay?
Okay.
Focus
Okay,
on that
got
element.
it.
Okay, got it? All right, Makrand, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for those wonderful example responses.
And thank you for the insight, Adrian.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate that.
Bye for now. All right, let's give Makrand a thumbs up. Yeah, so students, especially for those Band 8, Band 9s, clear, concise, informative language. That's what you're really focusing on, okay? Students, we just use the student partner speaking service on our website that you can join by clicking this big red button here that's just above my head at aehelp.com. That's all the time I have for today. For general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. It's here. It's the green website. For academic, it's aehelp.com. Students, keep practicing. Talk to each other, okay? As I mentioned to... who was that? That was my first volunteer today. Practice your English with speakers from other countries. That's a really good way to iron out some of those mistakes that are tied to your native language. Okay. So, and even try to get off the continent that you're on, right? So people in Asia try to find, people in Europe to be your speaking partner. Go to ahelp.com, go to glshelp.com, use all of the tools there. Use the code VIP9 for that 10% discount. Thank you, Sarah, for moderating. Great job, everybody. As Sarah's saying, thank you, members, for your continued involvement and support. We've got that Task 2 class coming up for you tomorrow. Thank you to all of my viewers for being here with me today. And I hope you're back tomorrow for Task 2 with the members and for reading for subscribers. So subscribe to the channel so you can join that chat. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here in Canada. Bye for now, everybody.